You're listening to the Be a Better Lawyer podcast with Dina Cataldo, episode 174. So how do high-achieving lawyers break through generations of being taught that we have to grind ourselves into the ground to get results for clients, build a successful business, and create a life we love? While law schools are busy teaching the rule of law, they're slacking on teaching us how to be a better human to create for ourselves the success we thought we'd achieve after law school. This podcast bridges the gap between law school and life. Hi. All right. I'm glad you're with me today because I want to talk to you about feeling behind. I talk to so many lawyers who tell me that they constantly feel behind, like they're a hamster in a hamster wheel, and they just can't make any traction on the work that they have in their inbox and their emails. And they tell me that they think that their calendar is the problem, that they just have too much to do, or they tell me that they just don't have a handle on their calendar. And if they just worked a little harder, if they had the perfect calendaring system, then things wouldn't feel so overwhelming. And then they would be all caught up. I want to tell you that neither of these are the answer to feeling behind. How do I know this? Because I've been through it. I am a full-time lawyer and I have a coaching practice and a podcast, and I care for an aging parent, and I have a dog who has some health issues. I have had all of the things in my life where I could be overwhelmed with. And I want to share with you how it is that I could come from feeling overwhelmed, feeling behind, and then changing things for myself. What I teach my clients is what I'm going to share with you right now. So everything that we do, okay, doesn't matter what it is, okay? It could be doing work at the office. It could be how we talk to people in our lives. It all comes from a feeling. Whatever we are feeling, it's going to be reflected in our actions, right? Makes sense. So if we snap at someone, we're probably feeling angry, maybe resentful. But those feelings, where do they come from? They all come from a thought that we are having. So if we're not consciously looking at our thoughts, if we're not digging in, trying to figure out what we're thinking, we're never going to be able to consciously impact our actions. And that also makes sense. You hear people all the time, and you've probably experienced this, let's face it, we all have, where we want to change a habit in our life, but we can't seem to change it. We want to wake up earlier. We want to learn a new language. We want to get a new calendaring system in place, and we don't do it. We just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And what we do is we make it about us, as if there's something wrong with us, that we can't do things differently. I want to offer to you that it has nothing to do with anything being wrong with you. All it is that you haven't taken a step back to look at the thoughts that are generating the feelings that are then influencing all of the action or inaction that you're taking. That's it. Okay. There's nothing that has gone wrong. Your brain is working exactly like it was meant to work. All that has happened is that you haven't learned how your brain, how your thoughts are influencing your actions and getting you your results, getting the result of feeling behind. Okay. You're having a thought that's influencing that. And it could be a lot of different things. I mean, it's different for every single person, right? Like you have thoughts, I'm behind. Of course, you're going to generate feelings of overwhelm, stress, maybe anxiousness, anxiety. And then you're going to take actions from that feeling. So the actions that you're taking from that feeling aren't going to be the most productive. And let me give you an example of this. So I would find myself in my office looking at a stack of papers, right? It could have been in my inbox. Maybe it was all over my desk, when my desk wasn't quite so neat. And I would look at everything on my desk and I would freeze. That was the action I was taking. I would freeze. I would kind of stare and spin off. And I would start taking action in ways that really weren't all that productive. I would start, I'm like, well, I got to do something. So I would find something to do that wasn't quite as important as I needed to focus my attention on. It was something that needed to get done, but it wasn't something that I really needed to focus my attention on where I would get the most progress in my practice. I would get the most traction, right? So that I would be ahead of where I wanted to be, or I would get the most important things done, right? I'd put them off until later in the afternoon, maybe later in the week. And then I would feel rushed and I would feel stressed and I would tell myself that I'm behind. But I was just telling myself that all week. So, of course, everything that I was doing was reinforcing that result, right? Because our result is always going to be a reflection of what we were thinking. And if we're thinking we're behind and we're feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, whatever it is, the actions that we take are going to come from that feeling. And they're always going to be the actions that are the least helpful for the result that we want to create. And then we just create more of that. So we're always feeling behind. We can't work hard enough to feel like we're ahead. We can't like outwork it. We can't out calendar it. We can't out any of that, like physically manipulate it in the world. We actually have to look, take a step back and start doing some thought work on ourselves. That's what we call it, right? Like when we're working on our brain, when we're looking at what we're thinking, then we can start to change things. So if you notice yourself always feeling behind, I want to offer you some things that you can do, right, with your thoughts that are going to influence things, that are going to change the way that you act so you get a different result. This takes a lot of practice. Okay, so if it doesn't work the first time, don't give up on it. That is where we tend to sabotage ourselves as we say, oh, it didn't work once, and so we don't try it again. But what mastery is of these concepts is repetition. What mastery is practice, consistency. We do this consistently. I don't write in my journal one week to look at my thoughts and that's it. No, it's a daily practice. So I want you to keep that in mind when you are implementing these things. The first thing to do is just notice what's going on. Notice when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxiety, overwhelm, confusion, any of that. What does that feel like in your body? Because usually we notice the feeling before we know the thought. Do you feel like your body's closed, like you have a shallow breath? Maybe you feel like you're holding your breath. Maybe you feel like you're tight in your shoulders. It shows up differently in everyone's body. And that is going to be the signal to say, oh, I'm feeling this tension. I'm feeling closed down. What am I feeling right now? Next step is to put a name to it. Is it overwhelm? Is it stress, anxiety, fear, disappointment, whatever it is, okay, confusion. And then you can say, okay, why am I feeling that way? Just ask yourself the question. And sometimes your brain's going to know right away, like, oh yeah, I'm thinking that thought that I'm behind. I'm thinking that thought I have too much to do. Those are the thoughts generating those feelings. And that's going to lead to actions that are not going to get you the result that you want. So then the next step, once you've noticed the feeling, you've noticed the thought, is to then ask yourself, okay, is this helpful? Is this helpful? Right? First of all, you're going to ask yourself, is this true? I ask that of some people, but if this is the first time you're doing thought work and I ask you, is that true? Your brain's going to be like, yeah, it's true. I have too much to do. So instead of asking that question, I want you to ask yourself, is that helpful? Is this a helpful thought for me to have? Because all of our thoughts are optional. Yeah, we could think we have too much to do, but is that helping things? Is that helping us have less to do? Yeah, we could think, oh yeah, I'm behind, but is that helpful? Is it helpful to think, oh, I'm behind? No, because it's creating overwhelm, it's creating anxiety, and then the actions that you take from those feelings are crappy actions. Okay, so what we want to do is start cultivating actions that are going to help you like do the most important things to get those things done. And that's going to influence how we feel all day long. So the first thing we got to look at is our feeling. How do we feel? Then what are we thinking? If it doesn't feel good, then we're having a thought that isn't a helpful thought. So if you're thinking, I'm feeling behind, maybe just try on a different thought. Okay, so I'm going to offer you a couple different thoughts that might be easier to think that will shift things for you. The first thought I'm going to offer to you is, you know what? Yeah, I have a lot to do and that's okay. I can do it, right? That's just one sample of a thought you can try. Try it on, see how it feels. Another thought that I will offer is, okay, my brain thinks I'm behind, and you know what? I can handle this. I've always handled it. It's always been okay. Right? It's always been okay. Or I'm behind and that's okay. I am going to do the most important thing right now. I just have to do one important thing right now. What is that one important thing? I'm going to focus on that. Okay, try one of these thoughts on, see which one feels better in your body. Like that's how you'll know if you're starting to shift your thought, if you're moving from feeling overwhelmed to something maybe a little bit more open, a little bit better. Okay. So if this is something that you struggle with, always feeling behind, I want to help you. And that's exactly what I do with my clients. I help them manage their mind and help them create habits that are going to create the results that they want, because all of our actions come from habits. We have a habit of thinking a certain way. We have a habit of doing things, and then we create the same results over and over. So if you want better results, if you want more ease in your practice, if you want more time to spend with your loved ones, I want to invite you to a coaching call with me. It is a 1-hour consult where I will show you the habits that your mind is in and give you a game plan of how we can work together so that you can start shifting your life and get the results that you want to get. So go to dinacataldo.com to sign up for a call right now, because you don't have to feel like this. You don't have to feel like you're behind. You can have more control over your life than you think.